Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. This is Zofa, and welcome to my team selection video for Game Week 10. I'm recording this on Friday morning. We've had some press conferences yesterday, nothing largely of relevance. We will hear from Pep Guardiola today. He did mention in midweek that Haaland could potentially be a doubt for the weekend, but I think that's just smoke and mirrors and making an excuse for not playing Haaland midweek in the Carabao Cup. But either way, make sure you pick your vice captain who you want. Do not ignore that. Next up, my team for game week 9, how the wild card went. Not that great. Just Timber, Gabriel, Senesi, and Krupi coming through with any sort of returns. Bruno with the DEFCON. Last week was always going to be a little bit trickier. The wild card looked much better this week. But that being said, where were really the points from? I think most players scored in the mid 50s. A lot of players who I sold did deliver, but ultimately we can't go back and look at it. We have to look at how this team looks going forward. Let's look at performances. I think Sanchez was obviously the biggest weakness of the wildcard. Chelsea's defense looked abysmal again. Timber, Gabriel, Sinesi, very low XG conceded. I think they're still good picks. Bruno had some of his best open play data we've seen in a while. 0.55 XG I saw. I think he's a good pick still going forward. Saka played with an illness but still managed 7 DEFCON in about 60 minutes. So he's showing that aspect to his game. Semenyo is an interesting one because his stats had dried up of late. He just had one penalty box touch, one shot. So the numbers are interesting and the fixtures are turning. Whether you would buy Semenyo right now or even hold on to him, I'm not really sure. But I don't think there's a reason to sell him till more predictable options emerge. Enzo, the game against Sunderland was a bit of a strange one. He did play in more withdrawn midfield role, not in the number 10, due to Guiu playing that role in the 9 with Pedro behind it. But I think that will change now going for the next game against Tottenham. You will see most likely over there Pedro start as the 9 with Enzo in the 10. You will most likely see James in midfield with Gusto at right back. This is a similar setup that he used against PSG. Krupi Jr. was obviously one of the heroes. The idea of playing him this week was to hide Munoz, and he came through. Start for the next game week looks good. I'm hoping I can bench boost him in game week 11 as well. So let's see how that goes. Mateta didn't expect much against Arsenal, but I still wanted to play the penalty taker. Haaland captain obviously didn't deliver, but that's largely irrelevant for us FPL managers. A reminder that you can join our Discord by signing up for Patreon. We're still doing an offer where you pay for 10 months and you get 2 months free. If you join the FPL Wire family, you get Discord access, exclusive content, Q&A sessions, tournaments, as well as just a great community to hang out with. You can sign up at patreon.com, the FPL Wire, or YouTube member, or scanning the QR code you see on the screen. And all the data you see is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. If you use the code you see on the screen, that's FFS the Wire 5, you end up with a 5% discount and also support the pod while you're at it. First up, as usual, let's look at the fixture ticker, how it pans out now for the next 10 game weeks. Newcastle go right on top. But when you look at the fixtures a bit more closely for Newcastle, from game week 15 that the good run nearly kicks in. You could argue from game week 14, that home game against Tottenham. I don't think the next ones after West Ham are that ideal. Brentford, Man City, and Everton away. So you can wait till about the game week 14 period. Palace, of course, are a big one. Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Manchester United, Burnley in the next 5. I think steamrolling into Palace is the way to go. With Liverpool, the run from 12 obviously is what we've all been interested in. Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton. But I think we mentioned it on the pod as well. Game week 13 to 15 is within essentially a 6-day period. They will play Sunday, West Ham, midweek, Sunderland, and 15 they'll play Leeds away. And right after that, they also have Inter Milan away in the Champions League. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Is any attacker going to be nailed on for starts? Even Salah? I'm not sure. Anderson's fixtures are quite good now. I think if you're holding on to him, we're still waiting for press conference updates. I think him being back for this weekend looks a bit more unlikely, but the fixtures still warrant a hold. So if you have somebody on the bench you can play instead of him, it's not necessarily somebody you have to sell. Arsenal fixtures are still good. You don't need me to tell you about them. Looking at the bottom, Tottenham, Sunderland, and Leeds, those guys really, the fixtures take a bit of a turn, but I don't think you are planning to play them anyway. It's be interesting to see now how many players still hold on to the likes of Mickey Van der Ven because he's just looking like Spurs' primarily goal threat at the moment. Now, the big news we've had this week is a potential blank slash double, and I know the other guys will be talking about it, but I shall do it as well. Now, you see now what has happened now, Palace being drawn against Arsenal for the quarterfinals means now Palace already have that midweek game scheduled in the Europa Conference League. So they can't obviously play in that midweek on the Wednesday or the Thursday. That's already a fixture booked in. So when will they play that game? So the game is played on the game week 17 weekend, as Tala said. That will create blanks of Everton, Arsenal, and Leeds Palace in FPL. And there's a reasonable possibility of Everton, Arsenal moving forward to create double game week 16. Now, Palace's fixture obviously can't be moved left or right. There's no room, but the Arsenal fixture could be made a bit earlier. So that would make Arsenal having a double of Wolves plus Everton, and Everton would have Chelsea plus Arsenal. Everton's double doesn't look that great on paper, of course, but the fixtures after are quite good. But there's more to unpack over here. So, first question you are being asked is if they are playing midweek, why would it cause blanks? This would cause blanks because Palace, as I mentioned, are scheduled to play a Conference League game that midweek. So, the Carabao quarterfinal moving to a weekend is more likely than Palace playing two games in the same midweek. Again, this is Tala's position. When are we likely going to find out whether or not this is going to happen? Quarterfinal TV schedule was confirmed a week after the draw in the last season. So, before game week 11 deadline, we should have clarity. Now, it's not necessarily going to be blanks and doubles, right? Now, what the BBC thinks is that Palace are going to be forced to play 4 games within a week, and there is precedence for that. Liverpool were made to do that during the COVID season as well when they had Club World Cup involvement. So, what they think is the Palace versus Manchester City Premier League fixture continues to be played on the 14th. They're going to make them play the Carabao on the Tuesday, the conference game on the Thursday, and then against Leeds on the weekend. So, we might not get the blank, we may not get any doubles, but either way, we should have clarity by game week 11. What this means for FPL managers essentially is hold your free hit, at least till we get some clarity. If it does, we do end up having a double in game week 16, then the triple captaincy for that week could be a great option. And of course, you'd want to use the free hit in 17 because we're all loaded up on so many Arsenal and Palace players. If it does become a blank, it becomes very, very tricky to navigate. The usual goal projections for the next few weeks, a lot of you guys are on the game week 10 wildcard, so it's worth a look. Arsenal and Man City with Liverpool, just the three highest goal projections comfortably. But again, with Man City, anyone scoring the goals besides Haaland, with Liverpool, can you really pick an attacker? So Arsenal just look like the team to back, especially in terms of goals. And this is why I still like keeping faith in Bukayo Saka over going triple defense. Manchester United are on fourth. The attack looks to be clicking, and I do like bringing in a Manchester United midfielder this week. I think Bruno and Bumo are both great FPL picks. It depends on how you play FPL. Newcastle, like I mentioned, the fixture is good against West Ham, but from game week 14 is when it really perks up. We are looking to invest in their attackers. You should have more clarity on Gordon's minutes, Wissa, and stuff like that by then. With Chelsea, the game week fixture against Tottenham could potentially be a tricky one, but right after that, game week 11 and 12, the projections are still good. So keep faith in Enzo for a few weeks, is what I'm thinking. But it is on my mind to move Enzo out for Sar. Looking at those projections, I probably will hold on that transfer. But I do think if I was buying this week, I wouldn't consider Enzo. I'd just go straight for Sa. Brighton are interesting with Minte potentially the menu, and Palace are obviously in 8th. The bookies haven't adjusted their goal scoring expectations heavily as of yet. Clean sheets, as you know, Arsenal are very good. City and Liverpool, especially, I think Liverpool, we're looking from game week 12. That run is really nice, right? Of 4 oranges you see over there. With Newcastle, as we mentioned, game week 13 is good. This week is good, but in the next two after, not so much. With Chelsea, somebody like me holding Sanchez. I think maybe I'll give him till game week 11, game week 12, and I most likely will make a goalkeeper transfer. Palace, clean sheet odds being there in number 5 also is interesting. I think Richards or Munoz, Lacroix, Gehi, you could take your pick over there. All great options. Bournemouth are interesting again. Game week 10 and 11, the clean sheet odds don't look great, but for Senesi from 12, 13, 14, it's a lot better. Some interesting visuals again from Solio and Rob T. This is now talking about goalkeeper efficiency tiers. You see on the top right, as we've been mentioning on the pod, Pope and Raya are your standout goalkeeper options. You move further to the left, you see the players with the lower points potential, especially when you consider their pricing, right? You look at some of them like Sells, Pickford. These guys aren't really justifying their price at the moment. Somebody did ask him where Sanchez is on this. He said just about Pickford. So Sanchez is also just a horrible goalkeeper pick, one I can't wait already to get rid of. Now, DEFCONs versus XGI, looking at the data over here. Now, we're trying to evaluate defenders with the DEFCON potential and the goal scoring / assist potential also, right? So we're trying to find someone closer to the top right corner, which is ideal. And the closest we get really, I think, are Munoz, Gehi, and Timber in terms of XGI per 90, but none of these guys are fantastic for DEFCON. The DEFCON beasts remain your Anderson, Richards, Mukiele, Sensi, Virgil, and Gabriel. Obviously, you see the goal threat there is a little bit underrated. He should really be much higher there, at least in my perception. But he doesn't have the underlying data to back it up like some of the other guys. Calafiori and Timber really also do look like fantastic picks in the Arsenal defense. Similarly enough for DEFCON, but this time we've taken non-penalty XGI, right? Because some of the data will be inflated for the likes of Bruno and Ndiaye for that. In terms of NP XGI, looking at pure like goal threat data, like ignoring DEFCON for your attackers, which you could argue is a reasonable thought. Bumo, Gakpo, Sar, very good underlying data for these guys. Enzo is also just about the same as Sar. So again, it's a very difficult decision if to pick between the two. Saka Semenyo's data remains consistent. Salah, Eze, Words. Reinders' data is dropping and Rogers' data is quite poor. Now we move along more to the x-axis. We see Ndai and Bruno are the only real guys who now today offer the NPXGI as well as the DEFCON potential, and they're both also on penalties. So I think they're both good picks. Anderson, Sobo, Xhaka, Caicedo, not so interested. Looking at this particular game week, Arsenal have the best clean sheet odds as always. Fulham also very good at home to Wolves, but without Anderson, I don't really know how we're going to be investing into that fixture. Newcastle, Man City, Everton also quite good for 34% away to Sunderland. I think the bookies have been a bit generous over there. Similarly with Brighton, who haven't kept a clean sheet yet this season. Be interesting to watch. You look at that Everton Sunderland matchup, 31% for Sunderland, 34% for Everton. They're projecting it to be close to a 0-0. Projected goals, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, like we mentioned, are on top. Newcastle, Palace, always good fixtures. Brighton and Manchester United playing Leeds and Forest. Manchester United in particular, I want to watch now how they'll fare against Sean Dyche's deep block. This is how my team is set up. So naturally, having used the wild card last week, I am going to try to roll a transfer, especially since I want to use the bench boost in game week 11. I've got Sanchez in goal, Timber, Gabriel, Munoz, Mukiele in my back four, Bruno Fernandes, Saka vice captain, Semenyo, Enzo, Mateta and Haaland, with King, Senesi, and Krupi Jr. on the bench. King did score in midweek. That was his first senior goal. And if he is required to sub on for any of these guys, I don't mind it this week. So most likely is a role. I don't think I'll be doing that Enzo to Sar transfer unless Maresca gives us any surprises in today's press conference. And in game week 11, I do want to roll out the bench boost. It will be King, I think, against Everton away, Senesi and Krupi, who will be Villa away, and Dubravka, who will be West Ham away. So it's a lot of away fixtures for those guys. It's not fantastic, but I don't know if Krupi is going to be playing in the future. It's a bit of a shot in the dark, so I do want to get the bench boost done with them. Thanks for watching. LR's already posted his video. Pras will be posting his video later today. If you've enjoyed the content, do like and subscribe. Thank you.